Okay, back with you here with part 2 of this video. Nothing But the Truth and a Few White Lies by Justina Chin Headley. Interesting. I just reviewed in the last video a book by a person with the same last name as Headley. So very interesting right there. Again, Nothing But the Truth and a Few White Lies. So let's see why I may have picked this one up. Not quite a banana. Asian on the outside, but white on the inside. And not quite an egg. A white kid who gets off on all things Asian. Half and half Patty Ho has never completely been at home in her skin. Life at House Ho is tough enough between the ultra strict Taiwanese mom, epic length lectures and all, and her Harvard-bound big brother. But things get worse when a Chinese fortune teller tells Patty's future via her belly button and divines a white guy on her romance horizon. Faster than Patty can add 2 plus 2, her mom freaks out and ships her off to math camp at Stanford. Just as Patty writes off her summer of woe, life starts glimmering with all kinds of probabilities. So, wow, quite an interesting story right there. That I actually picked this book up for $3 at one point. So, yeah, we'll see. This was kind of interesting. I'd forgotten about this book and I wasn't quite sure what it was about, but that was quite the introduction right there. Next up, I'm going to come at you with a little bit of nonfiction right here with one book that I read, and it looks like another book that I was pretty close to finishing but didn't quite finish. The book that I read is Malcolm X by Any Means Necessary, and this is just a kind of a collection of stories and speeches by Malcolm, and it was really powerful. I think around the time of Spike Lee's Malcolm X movie, I think a lot of people were kind of rediscovering Malcolm X, and I was among them. And so I think I picked up a lot of Malcolm X books and read a ton of Malcolm X books, including the autobiography of Malcolm X as told to Alex Haley. So by Any Means Necessary, it was interesting to read some of his speeches and to kind of get a comprehension of how he evolved over his life that was cut way short. Again, Malcolm X by Any Means Necessary. When I was a little bit younger, and I say that even though she's about the same age as me, I was a big tennis fan back in the day, and I was a big fan of Monica Seles. And I got this book many years ago, Monica Seles, From Fear to Victory. And of course, she went through that horrific stabbing incident. I believe it was at the French Open at some point, and so that was a long road to recovery for her. And I'd been really kind of fascinated about her, and I'd read a lot about her over the years, and so or I'd watched a lot of her over the years and ended up wanting to pick up this book. So I'm thinking at some point I'm going to probably end up reading this book because she does have a fascinating story, and a story that's definitely worth hearing. Next up is a book that I read, sort of. I did the audio book, but I didn't feel like I got the full treatment. So I'm thinking 1984 by George Orwell is going to be a book that I want to actually read the physical copy. This is a old copy, an elderly copy, if you will. And I'm actually looking forward to reading it again because the audio book was really interesting, and the story that's going on with 1984 is pretty fascinating. So the year 1984 is finally upon us, and George Orwell's prophetic nightmare vision in 1949 of the world we were becoming is timelier than ever. Okay, this is probably written in the 80s. 1984 is still the great modern classic of negative utopia, a startlingly original and powerful novel that creates an imaginary world that is completely convincing from the first sentence to the last 4 words. Seldom has a book provided a greater wealth of symbols for its age and for the generations to follow, and seldom have literary symbols been invested with such power. None can deny its power, its hold on the imaginations of whole generations, nor the power of admonitions, a power that seems to grow rather than lessen with the passage of time. 1984 may not arrive on time, but there's always 1985. Next up is Silent Screams by Annette Gisby. And this is a book that I picked up, And look at the back cover real quick. It says, Jessica Miller is a young woman with secrets, dark secrets she feels she can't tell. Referred to a psychiatrist after a failed suicide attempt, she's reluctant to reveal the reasons why. The truth emerges over several sessions, and it soon becomes clear that Jessica isn't the only one with secrets. Some secrets should remain buried. So it says a lot without saying very much, and so it's interesting little bit of cover art right there with the little stuffed toy right there. Silent Screams by Annette Gisby. We'll see if I end up putting this on a TBR list in the future. Next up is Black Boy by Richard Wright. This is a story about the South and racism, and it's one of those books that it's kind of tough for some people to read because it gets really real, talking about the Jim Crow South and racism and the impact it had. It says, in this once sensational, now classic autobiography, Richard Wright tells us with unforgettable fury and eloquence what exactly he thought and felt as a black boy in the Jim Crow South. So really a powerful read. It's one that I've had for many, many years. Never got around to reading it, but I really think that I do want to read this book at some point, however painful it might be. And lastly is an author that I had read before, and I saw this book and I thought, you know what, it would be interesting to give Jacqueline Woodson another try. And this one is The House You Pass on the Way. So I picked this book up. I've never read it, and not really sure why I never read it. I picked it up, but then again, sometimes I tended to do that back then, and even still today. It says on the inside cover, Staggerly feels like an outsider in Sweet Gum, even though she's lived there her whole life. She's a loner by nature, and her family is set apart by her parents' interracial marriage and by her celebrity grandparents' tragic deaths. At 14, Staggerly claims her dog and harmonica are all the company she needs, but she yearns to have a friend who understands her. Then Daddy's sister Ida sends her adopted daughter, Tyler, to stay with the family for the summer. Staggerly feels drawn to Tyler in a way she's never felt before, and she learns Tyler was sent there to get over her misguided feelings toward girls. Staggerly and Tyler soon discover they can tell each other the thing that they can't tell anyone else, but they struggle with what their feelings mean and how others would react if they knew. National Book Award nominee Jacqueline Woodson's powerful novel will ring true with anyone who's ever searched for a place to belong. So, very interesting story there, and I can see why I picked it up. Here's something on the back cover from Kirkus Reviews. It says, a newfound confidant and a breath of common sense clears away a teenager's guilt and dismay over her dawning sexual preferences in this thoughtful, deceptively low-key story from Woodson. Here's another one from Booklist. Woodson takes the gay identity story far beyond the simplistic problem novel and connects it with every outsider's coming of age. What many teens will relate to is this uncertainty, the sense that Staggerly doesn't know who she is becoming and where her journey will take her. So, interesting story that sounds not quite like what I remember, but it does sound very interesting nonetheless. So that does it with part 2 of the book haul that's not really a book haul. Books recovered from my garage, and so I probably have enough books in my garage to do this, I don't know, maybe like a couple dozen more times. Okay, maybe not that many, but pretty close. So if you like the video, please consider hitting the like button for this video. If you like BookTube content, AuthorTube content, please consider hitting the subscribe button for this channel and the bell button for notifications. And I'll be back here with more BookTube content in the not too distant future.